Welcome to Peaking to Success, the podcast that delves deep into our guest success stories. The highs, the lows, the lessons learned, and if there's any exciting future plans lined up. Talking about future plans, Peaking into Success is proudly supported by Peak Wills and Estate Planning. We're here to support you with any future planning. Long gone are the times of solicitors in suits and ties and dark rooms and outdated practices. We are proud to offer a fresh and dynamic approach to the stuffy old world of wills, changing the way we talk about what happens when we die. But that's enough talk about death on a podcast introduction. It's time to pass you over to Peaking into Success host, Mr. Adam Kahn. Whose success are we peeking into this episode, Adam?
Thanks, Sam. Today we have on a footballer who has played for teams such as Southend, Derby, Forest Green and Crawley, and is currently applying his trade in League 2 with Walsall. We have Isaac Hutchinson.
Want to know what's happening within Derby's black community? Or perhaps you have a story of your own to share? Then look no further than Majatu, your one-stop source for local African and Caribbean news. With our digital news platform and quarterly print magazine, keep up to date on all of the latest in arts, entertainment, food, sports and more. Find us online at mojatu.com.
Hi Isaac, how are you today?
All good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. So, of course, for people that don't know who you are, how would you sum up yourself characteristically as well as what you do as a career in a nutshell?
I'd like to think I'm hardworking, driven, someone who has obviously got aspirations and will work hard to try and achieve them aspirations. Hopefully people would sort of see me as like a nice person, a good person, and yeah, hopefully they're probably the main traits I'd say are important.
Nice, and of course you are a footballer as well, aren't you? That's a career path you have gone down.
Yeah, exactly. So at Walsall at the moment, started my career with obviously at youth team football. I started down where I live in near Brighton, with a team called Ratton Rangers. I then went on a couple trials when I was about 7 or 8. I went on one at Gillingham and one at Crystal Palace, and both of them said no. And then when I was 10, I went on trial at Brighton and got signed at Brighton. And then was at Brighton all the way through from 10 till 18. Didn't get a pro contract after my scholar. And then went on a couple trials here and there as well. I went to Sheffield United. I went to Burnley. I went abroad. I went to Sparta Prague.
Yep.
So I went on a few different trials and stuff, and in the end I went to Sparta Prague and they offered me a contract, and so did Southend.
Okay.
So I had a bit of a decision to make there, and I ended up going to Southend. I just wanted to stay in England at the time. I was only 18, so I thought that it probably would be the best opportunity to get into like the English game, like professionally, start getting men's football, which I did. I think I ended up playing about 40 or so games for Southend while I was a teenager, and then obviously COVID happened, and after COVID went back with Southend and then ended up signing for Derby.
Yeah.
Had 2 years at Derby with a couple of loans. I went on loan at Forest Green and Crawley in that 2 years, and also made a couple of appearances for Derby, and then signed for Walsall at the start of last season, and have been there since.
So of course you've whistled through your career there. Is there a reason, like when you choose to kind of leave a club or sign for a new club, what kind of goes through your head when you're making them decisions to move? Is of course you've had loan moves as well as permanent moves.
Yeah, so with permanent moves, it's obviously dependent on your situation. So like when I left Brighton, I obviously didn't get offered a pro contract there, which is which happens to a lot of kids and stuff like that at that age. And like I say, with Southend, I just felt I went and trained there for a couple of weeks, and I just felt like it was a good place for me to get an opportunity, I think. And within a month or so of probably two months of being there, I'd made my debut for the first team and scored on my debut. So and sort of my career then sort of kick-started from there. And then when like with Derby come about, obviously, like I said, I've got aspirations of I wanted to play as high as possible. I want to play as high as possible, and Derby's a massive club, massive history. So when that opportunity come about, I just jumped at it. Really, I wanted to test myself, and I think at the time I was only 20, so still young, and I went in with the under-23s. But I think it was just the opportunity to get back into that sort of environment. A big club, and try and get into the first team, and even with the 23s, it's a good level of football at Cat 1 23s football. So I think, I just wanted to push myself, and once I got there, I think because I've been playing men's football for a couple of seasons at Southend, like in the Football League, and I went there and was in the 23s. It was a tough transition because you go into the 23s. It was the season where there's no fans or nothing, and I found it tough to sort of get my head around it, settle in with that sort of side of things, because I was just used to it. Almost once I got there, I almost felt like I'd taken a step backwards because I was no longer playing first team football. Yeah. So I went on loan to Forest Green, and with that, I think it was just a case of I didn't want to miss out on that men's football experience. You know what I mean? At a young age, considering I'd had a fair bit of it, I just wanted to get back into that environment. And that was obviously the motivation behind that. Forest Green were doing really well at the time. I think they were in the top 3 in League 2. So it was all looking good on paper, and I went there, and it probably couldn't have gone worse, really. From a football standpoint, I went there. I think I made 10 appearances. 3 of them were starts, and I came off at half time in 2 of them. Jeez. So it was just a really tough time. Obviously, like I say, the team were doing quite well, and the manager didn't really change the team up too much. But it was just a really tough period where I'm in lockdown. You can't really go anywhere, do nothing. I'm not seeing my family, and I'm at Forest Green, which is, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen the stadium before.
Yeah, so went there, and it was just tough. I felt like I was working hard, doing everything I could do to earn opportunities and stuff like that. But when they weren't really coming to me that often, and then when I did have one, I was sort of caught cold because you're not playing regular football, so you go into the team, and obviously, like I said, I'm still 20 at the time, so it's not like I've got loads of experience to sort of go off of. And it's just tough, but I think it almost, once that loan finished and I went back to Derby, it gave me a bit of added motivation, to be honest. I think I went back to Derby with a bit of I need to prove myself sort of mindset.
Yeah.
And I went back to Derby with the first team. Sorry, no, not with the first team, with the 23s. So straight away I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Because obviously off the back of a loan with the League 2, so I'm thinking I need an opportunity to at least train with the first team, and I wasn't. But no, I mean, I just suppose got my head down and done what I could. And I think there was one time where someone got injured, so I went over and trained. This was about maybe 2 weeks into pre-season.
Okay.
Went over and trained and trained really well. And from that point on, I was just with them, like training with them, and then playing in pre-season with them. Made my debut in the first game of the season against Huddersfield in the Championship, which was obviously a special moment. played in a couple of the cup games and scored against Salford, I think it was. So yeah, I went back with like a really positive mindset, really, just to try and prove myself. Because obviously it was a tough time for Derby as well, like with all the problems of going into administration and stuff. Like, it was a really a tough period in general. So I think it was just a case of focusing on the football and trying to do what you can.
That was going to be my next question. I was going to say, of course, you mentioned about Derby and the struggles they had. Was that so? When you kind of went on loan to Crawley and then, of course, left, was that kind of your decision and you wanting to move away from Derby, or was it due to, of course, the financial struggles that they were going through that time?
So I'm not. So basically, when I moved to Derby, Derby had to pay Southend if I played.
Right. Okay.
I made appearances and stuff. So that when we went into admin, I'm not 100% sure whether it's 100% down to that or not down to it at all. But I think once they went into admin, there was no chance I was ever going to play because they didn't have the money, even if they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously I went on loan to Crawley and it went really well. Obviously with John Yems, I know you've done the podcast with him.
I have, yeah.
He gave me an opportunity, and I loved every minute of it. He was a good manager. He put a lot of trust in me, and it was a good period for me. But yeah, obviously, like I say, the struggles at Derby were still happening, and come the end of the season, I think it certainly wasn't my decision. I was out of contract anyway.
Okay.
And yeah, it was the club's decision to say that they weren't going to renew the contract, and that was that, really.
Was there more options on the table than Walsall, or was Walsall kind of the option you got given to join?
No, I had a couple of options. It's tough, because you're coming off the back. For me, I was coming off the back of a couple of seasons where it was really disjointed. I hadn't played a lot of football to really showcase myself, whether that was to showcase myself to Derby to say that I should get another contract or other clubs. But yeah, like I said, I had a couple of other options, but I spoke to the Walsall manager at the time, Michael Flynn, and had really positive conversations with him. Got a lot of respect for him. He put a lot of trust in me. And yeah, obviously chose Walsall off the back of that.
And I mean, it shows from your appearances from, of course, the other clubs to then last season and this season, like you already having 9 this season and, of course, 44 appearances last season. So do you feel happier that you're getting the consistent game time and it's making you a better player and you're more developed as a player now that you're getting them games under your belt?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I say, I think that was what I was desperate for. I think after my period at Southend, where as a young kid in terms of in football terms, I'd wrapped up a few appearances, which was a good thing. But then I wanted that next step where I really cemented myself into a team, and the Derby period sort of put a little bit of a halt to that because it was such an up and down sort of period.
Yeah.
So yeah, with after that Derby period, all I thought was I just need to get settled somewhere, spend a full season there as well, because obviously at Derby I had for a couple of years. So I need to get settled somewhere, get my head down, and yeah, just get somewhere where I can have that platform to have the games to improve and to show what I can do, which obviously Walsall have given me.
Brilliant. And I mean, we've kind of gone through your career there. Of course, you are a midfielder, if no one did know that. So who would you liken yourself to in the game, if you could liken yourself to a player from the past, or what you want to achieve as a player in your position?
That's a tough one. I don't know if it's tough to sort of say who I'm like. I don't want to say anyone, and that'd be a bit of a
no.
Like Ronaldo. I said like Ronaldo or something.
But like,
I think
play style and how you kind of play in a game. Who would you like in your like skill set and your play style too?
I'd say obviously I'm an attacking midfielder, so there's quite a few obviously attacking midfield, especially like over the years. Like I try and base my game around the type of players that are more my sort of build and physicality sort of as well, because obviously sometimes you sort of think of attacking players as little tricky, sort of quick, like attacking players like that, but there's a lot of players who are like my sort of height, like sort of 6'2", still very like technically good and stuff like that. So like if I was to watch videos of people I want to play like, it would be players like Zidane and Bellingham. Now if you look at someone like him, they're the sort of players that if you was to say who would you want to play like, or who do you think you could model your game off of, they're the sort of type of players that I would be looking at.
Nice. Of course, we've focused on your career in a whole. Is there one standout moment that you see as your biggest achievement or your career high in the footballing game so far?
I'd say my biggest achievement is probably making my debut in the Championship, because that's obviously it's a tough league for a massive club like Derby. Obviously, regardless of wherever they are now, or whatever situation was, that's a big club, and it was obviously I feel honoured to have had that sort of experience to play for Derby in the Championship. I've got that under my belt, sort of thing. My biggest high would definitely be when I scored on my debut, because as it doesn't matter that what sort of level it is or what sort of game it is, you dream of your debut as a kid coming through the academy and stuff like that, and you just obviously wondering how it's going to go, thinking, oh, imagine if I scored. And I came on maybe with about 10 minutes to go, and I think it was maybe 50 seconds or something, and I'd scored.
Jeez. So
like the feeling of that was it was special, and that's probably, I'm not 100% sure I've felt a feeling like that before, like, and since, probably just because of the I don't know, it's almost like relief, shock, like surprise, like it's just everything sort of coming into one. And obviously, and like my old man came to that game to watch at Southend, so he was there to see it as well. So yeah, that's probably my biggest high, just because of the feeling it gave me.
And I mean, I bet when you come on and there's been 50 seconds and you score, I bet you don't even know how to celebrate or what to do. What kind of was your first instance after you scored that goal?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, I remember I scored, seen it go in, and I've run over to where the fans are, and I've done a ridiculous celebration. It's like a little stupid, a little dance. I can't. This is like it's through my family. Me and my cousin, I think it is. I think it was. We was just messing about. There's this dance, and I just remember we was laughing at it. It's really stupid, but I remember when I was a kid at Brighton, I scored a goal and I did it when they were at a game.
Okay.
So, and that was the game was at the stadium, so it was like a big occasion for you at the time. Like you were playing at the stadium at Brighton, and it's like quite a big occasion for you. And obviously, from that point, it was probably probably a big occasion again. It was the first thing that came into my mind to do it. Obviously, just as a little funny thing for my family, like just it's just funny, really. But that's the first thing that came to me. So it's like a little dance I did.
But there you go. And I mean, at least no one can kind of take that off you. Of course, people nowadays try and mimic and take other people's celebrations. So you having that and just saying, yeah, I did it because of me and my cousin, that's more meaningful to you, isn't it? So that's
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think no one's going to be trying to steal that anytime soon either.
Of course, you've said you're high. Is there a defining moment? So, like, maybe a piece of advice someone's given you, or kind of a particular game where you think you played well that's kind of defined the path and the player you've become?
Yeah, I mean, I've been given a lot of advice over the years. I've had a lot of different managers, different personalities, which have all sort of rounded me and guided me in different ways on what to do, what not to do, what bits of, there's certain things that people say and you think maybe that's not the sort of best, not the right thing I need to be hearing at the moment, and there's certain things that you do need to hear. I had a manager at Southend who, funnily enough, is now one of the coaches at Walsall.
Okay.
And I just remember one time going in and seeing him, because I can't remember. I'd been playing, but I wasn't really stamping my off for it. Like, I wasn't playing as well as I could have been doing it. Do you know what I mean? And
okay, yeah.
When I went and spoke to him, and I just remember him saying, like, he just was really honest with me and said about the things I don't do, mainly things that don't involve the football, because obviously I'm an attacking player, so that sort of side of things comes quite naturally. Just saying about how I need to do these things, and if I don't, I won't have a career, because they're so important to playing at this level. And he put it pretty bluntly, and it might not sound that bad, but when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, like, if I don't do these things, I'm going to like drop out of the game. I'm not going to get to where I want to get to. And from that point on, I've remembered it, and don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not perfect at it. There's so many things I can improve on, but that was probably that's the main bit of advice that sticks out to me, just because of how it made me feel at the time. I just remember thinking I need to make sure that I'm doing all parts of the game, otherwise, because I don't want to not be a professional footballer.
Yeah.
So that's probably I'd say that's the main bit of advice that's stuck with me. With regards to sort of a turning point as such, I'll probably say my time at Crawley, just as a whole, it really got my confidence back. Because after, obviously, like I say, a tough probably year and a half, where at Derby I'm going on loan, then I'm back at Derby, I think I'm in the team, and then I think I got injured and then had COVID at the same time, and after that we was in administration, so it also was sort of like just felt like it was going against me. And on deadline day I signed for Crawley, so even that I'm thinking, it's not going to get done, I'm going to end up sitting in the 23s for the rest of the season. Where do I go from there? So it gets done, and like I say, I went to Crawley with John Yems, and it was just the best thing I could have possibly done, because it just got me back enjoying football, playing for someone who had a lot of faith in me, put me in the team straight away, gave me minutes straight away, and gave me a lot of confidence, which I needed. And then, so off the back of that loan spell, I just felt much more confident within myself and within playing at that level to then go to Walsall and kick on.
Nice. And I mean, it's good to know that, of course, having loan moves does benefit players. Is, of course, some people just go on loans and they feel like, oh, that's me done. Whereas you've used it as a kind of reigniter, and it's reignited your career. You enjoyed playing at Crawley, and now you've kind of carried that on into Walsall, which is a big thing, and a lot of people don't understand how important loans are in the footballing game for players like yourself.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, I just remember thinking after that I'm not the first player that's going to have a loan move that hasn't worked out, and I'm not the last player either. And to be honest with you, I probably, you know, how everything sort of shapes you. So I think as much as it was a horrible period, I learned so much about myself. I think I came out of it so much stronger mentally, having to sort of, because no one understands the sort of, other than the people close to you, no one really understands the struggle or how hard it can be in them situations. So off the back of that, a bad loan, I think it really, I come out of it stronger.
Yeah.
For the reason I never expected, I came out of it having learned something and a better player and a better person, probably just because of that bad experience.
That makes sense.
And then, like you say, on the other hand, I've had a really positive experience as well. So yeah, I think whether a loan is normally coming about because the club you're at want you to get experience. They want you to show what you can do. So I think, yeah, a bad loan definitely isn't the end. You look at Harry Kane, how many loans he had. It's just they're never going to be the end of the story. And then good loans can be really positive to build off of. Like I say, for me, it really, really gave me the confidence to push on. And yeah, like I say, then going to Walsall in a mindset of kicking on and showing what I can do.
Nice. And of course, you're at Walsall now. Is there any plans for, of course, you to further develop your game coming up, or kind of what are your hopes for Walsall for the season as well?
Yeah, I mean, as a team, we've got a really ambitious team, a really ambitious group of players who, putting it bluntly, we want to get promoted. That has to be the aim. There's leagues above us, there's players above us, and we want to be a team that pushes on and gets the club up the leagues.
Yeah.
So as a team, as a club, that's without doubt the aim. For me, personally, I feel like off the back of last season, I feel like I really established myself and sort of become an important player, someone who can take responsibility and be a bit of a leader, especially this season. Off the back of last season, I want to add that to my game. I want to be someone who leads. Not just the captains have to lead. Every player can do their bit to help the team. So that's definitely something I'm trying to do this season. And yeah, just try and help the team do well. Nice.
Now focusing kind of in a reflective sense on you and your career, going back to, of course, being in the Brighton youth team, shall we say, to now, is there anything that you would do differently in your career?
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, there definitely is. There's lots of, looking back in hindsight, there's lots of things you do or decisions you make where if you could go back, you'd probably make a different one. To be honest with you, going through the academy, it was a pretty smooth sort of period. I went, obviously, like I said, I signed at 10, and I sort of always felt like I was one of the better players. Around maybe under 12s, 13s, I started playing up here quite a bit.
Nice.
That's always a sign where you sort of think, you're doing quite well. And when I was under 14s, I believe, I got offered my scholarship. So normally you get to under 16s and they offer you a scholarship.
Right.
Or you get released, obviously. But so I got offered my scholarship 2 years early. And at the time it was like, oh, like, this is brilliant. Like, obviously it's a massive show of faith from the club. But like, for me, it was just almost not a relief, but like, I felt like $1 million. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just one of them things. If you're getting it early, you know you're doing well, and that sort of thing. If I could go back now, I probably wouldn't have signed it.
Okay.
Because I just think it just led to maybe subconsciously a little bit of complacency from me at times. Because like after I got offered it, it was still all good. I was playing up a year pretty much all the time. As an under 15, I was with the 16s. As an under 16, I was playing in the under 18s. I was in and around the England under 16 squads. I went to a couple of training camps and stuff like that. So it was all pretty positive. But yeah, like I say, if I could go back now, I wouldn't have signed the scholarship early, because I think at that age there was so much more possibilities without doing that. I think it just sort of, like I say, it probably led to a bit of complacency from me, and also it just meant where I was at the club, I couldn't sort of, I couldn't be open to anything else, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because at the time I feel like I was doing really well, and maybe, who knows, if you don't sign it, you might get to under 16s and you might have bigger clubs coming in for you, or because I don't think they would have offered a scholarship to a 14-year-old for no reason.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So I think at the time, looking back, I think potentially there might have been other options available, and I think by signing it, I just closed myself off a bit, and then, but at the same time, if I don't do that, my whole journey could be different, and you don't know whether that's better or for worse.
That's the thing. We've all got to take risks, and sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they don't. And I mean, football is kind of a very high risks like career to get into, because of course you don't know if you're going to stick with that team. You don't know. There's so many factors going on with, of course, managers favouring you and not favouring you and all that kind of thing. You don't know what's going to be around the corner. So, I mean, you just wanted the stability and you took that option at Brighton, where it could have all played out differently. We don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a piece of advice
Exactly.
that you'd give yourself if you went back?
Yeah, and I'd still give it to myself now, and it's don't overthink, because I spent so many hours just thinking about, dwelling's probably the right word, dwelling on bad games, bad things I did. I could have had a great game, but I'd think about the 4 or 5 bad things that I did, and it's still a bit the same now. So I think, yeah, if I could give myself any advice, especially as a younger player, it would definitely be just to enjoy it more. Don't not to worry about the mistakes because it's such a special thing to be able to do football every day.
Yeah, 100%.
And the days where you don't enjoy it, or the days where you come out of it thinking, oh, I wish, like, just being upset with how it's gone, or thinking about a bad session or anything, it's a wasted day. You can't change it. You just gotta. You're going into football the next day with your mates and you're playing again. Like, it would definitely be that. Don't overthink. Don't dwell on things. Just enjoy it and look forward.
No, that's a nice one, and I mean that can fit into any career that anyone does, as long as you're passionate about it and enjoying yourself. Don't kind of overthink the negatives, but no, completely agree. We're going to go into some quick fire questions now. Of course, you don't know what these are, but I've got faith that you'll be able to answer them all to a good ability.
Sweet.
So we're going to start off with, of course, you've been to a few clubs now, so I know that you would have done initiation songs. What's kind of your go-to song that you'd sing?
Alright, I've sung a few different ones. I think the one I've sung the most is Robbie Williams' Angels.
Nice. Get everyone involved as well.
Yeah, try to.
Are you a good singer? Or?
Nah, not really. Depends. Sometimes if I'm feeling it, but it's quite tough when you're stood on a chair in front of everyone. You're a bit like, I was just more worried about not falling off the chair. Like, you just feel like you're about to fall off of it. I can hold my own.
No, good. What's the best stadium, in your opinion, that you played at? So maybe a stadium that means something to you, or just generally the best one in your opinion?
The best, I'm going to do two. So the best stadium, the one with the most probably history, is the Ibrox Stadium, Rangers.
Nice.
Actually, playing a professional game, the Stadium of Light. We played Southend. We played Sunderland for Southend. And there was about 30,000 there, and that was like the most I'd played in front of. So that was definitely the best sort of experience in a stadium.
Nice. Is there a dream stadium that you hope you'll be able to play at in your career?
Wembley.
Yeah,
definitely.
Would that be hopefully the end of this season? Would you see that coming, or are you kind of seeing to the future a bit further?
Either. I think it would just be a privilege to play at Wembley at any point in your career, whether it's, right at the people at the top level playing in the FA Cups and stuff, or for England, or in League Two playing in the playoffs. I think whatever that is, it's a privilege, and that's hopefully at the end of this season that can be the case.
Nice. Is there a piece of footballing memorabilia that you kind of cherish or hang up? So is there like a shirt that you swap with someone, or something that you've like taken after a win or a match ball that you kind of cherish as a piece of football memorabilia for yourself?
Yeah, so I keep all of my match shirts. I keep all of them because I think come the end of my career, they'll be special to me.
Nice.
And there hasn't been many, but so last season we played Leicester in the FA Cup, and I swapped shirts with Maddison. So I've got his shirt at home, which is good, because obviously it's a player another player I try to sort of base my game off of. He's a very good footballer, someone I'd look up to as like in the football terms. So yeah, to get his shirt was quite special.
And I mean, you wouldn't be able to get that again, as now he's moved to Spurs. So I mean, you've been able to get it, and it's kind of a sought after shirt now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a player that who's the hardest player you think you played against? So it could be kind of in the whole field, or kind of for you match to match, who kind of you were marking in a game that you found particularly hard.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd say, trying to think of who I've played against. Yeah, probably Maddison, to be honest. He played in midfield when we played him in the cup. He was very tough to get close to. So yeah, he's probably the toughest player to play against in that sense. Like, we didn't have a lot of the ball, and he was on it quite a lot, so that was tough. So yeah, I'd probably say him.
Nice. Is there one thing that you've currently got on your bucket list that you hope to achieve?
In football terms?
In any, it can be whatever you personally see at the top of your bucket list. So if you were writing a bucket list of things that you wanted to do before you die, what would be like at the top, the one thing that you'd want to do?
At the top of that list is playing the Premier League.
Nice.
So I'm still reasonably young. I think there's still time for me to get there. So I'm clinging on to that one.
There's many players that, of course, have gone through the leagues and got there, like Jamie Vardy at a later stage. So it's always achievable for you to get there. And I mean, you're only 23 at the moment, aren't you? So
yep. Got to stay positive.
Exactly. And the last question is going to be, of course, you're currently at Walsall. So what is kind of your gem of Walsall? So something that you like to take people to, like if your family or your friends are visiting, what's the one place you try and take them to when they come and visit you?
Do you know what? It's not in Walsall. It's in Birmingham, which is obviously it's all the same sort of area. But me and my girlfriend, we go for a walk on Sunday mornings, and this is like it's a nice place. It's like get a little coffee and stuff around like this big sort of lake thing, but walking around, there's just like these like wild like horses or like ponies or something.
Oh, okay.
They just walk around.
Nice.
But like especially in the winter, it's quite like a really like peaceful sort of place. So like I'd probably say that's the main place. Like if people were to come up, I'd say we need to go there because it's just like a nice experience.
No, that's good. I like that, and I mean it's different. Not everyone's going to choose it. It's not like a big attraction. So no, I rate the smaller things. Thank you for coming on. Where will people be able to kind of find you, kind of away from the football pitch?
What in terms of?
In terms of like online, where will people be able to find you?
Okay, yeah. So I think my Instagram's Isaac Hutchinson _ and my Twitter is @HutchIsaac. So they're the main places that I'd be online on.
No, and I mean, thank you for coming on and kind of sharing your career and everything involved with that. I mean, it's nice to kind of see the other side of the kind of, apart from just watching the game and people hurling abuse or hurling praise and chanting. So, no, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
And wherever you download your podcasts.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Peaking to Success podcast. If you enjoyed, please make sure you follow us on Spotify as well as Instagram, where you can see all the updates of who is coming up, as well as who has already been on the podcast, as well as Twitter, where there is information and interaction from me on there as well. Thank you.